Ladies and gentlemen, do you ever wonder why some people rise to wealth while others work just as hard and stay stuck in the same place year after year? Why two people can start with the same job, the same opportunities, the same hours in the day, yet one builds a life of freedom while the other barely keeps up with bills? It is not luck. It is not talent. It is not a special gene or a magic formula that only a few people have. It is 10 simple forces that shape a person's money, mindset, and future. 10 secrets that work quietly behind the scenes. 10 habits that determine whether your money grows or disappears. 10 choices that either lift you to freedom or trap you in stress. And today, I'm going to share each one with you. These secrets changed my life. They changed the lives of people I know. They created wealth for people who started with nothing. They built careers, businesses, and futures that once felt impossible. These secrets also explain why millions of people will work for decades and never reach the life they dream about. Because they do not understand how money behaves. They do not understand how simple choices compound. They do not understand how quickly financial mistakes stack up. And because of that, they stay stuck in a cycle that repeats every month. Ladies and gentlemen, stay with me. Because the first secret alone can change how you think about every dollar, every decision, and every habit you have with money. And when you understand the first secret, all the other ones begin to make sense. Let us begin, ladies and gentlemen. Here is the first secret that separates people who get rich from people who stay broke. Secret 1, live below your means. I want you to imagine something simple. You get your paycheck. You feel excited. You breathe a little easier. You think, finally, this month will be different. You think, maybe now I can enjoy life a little. Maybe now things will feel lighter, but somehow by the end of the week, the money is gone. You check your balance and see nothing but confusion. You wonder where it all went. You look back at your spending, and even then it is hard to understand. How did money disappear that fast? Most people blame bills. They blame taxes. They blame emergencies. They blame bad luck. But the truth is simple. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought many years ago. A simple home, no social media show. He does not spend to impress anyone. He spends to stay wise. Mark Zuckerberg drives a modest car. Oprah Winfrey budgets carefully. These are billionaires, yet they do not waste money. They understand one truth. Wealth comes from discipline, not from spending. Here is the funny part. Most people are not broke because they do not earn enough. They are broke because they buy things their emotions push them to buy. They buy things to feel good. They buy things to feel important. They buy things to escape stress. They buy things to silence boredom, shoes, gadgets, fancy coffees, takeout food, clothing they do not need, subscriptions they forget to cancel, small emotional purchases that pile up into big financial damage. Let me give you a real-life example. There is a guy who goes out with friends often. Before leaving home, he says to himself, I will only spend $1,000 today. $1,000 is the plan. It feels safe. It feels controlled. But by the end of the night, he has spent $7,000. Not because he wanted to. Not because he needed to. He spent it because he did not want to look cheap. His insecurity paid the bill. Not his logic, not his goals, not his discipline. His insecurity, ladies and gentlemen, this is where most people lose the game. They spend money to impress people who will forget about it tomorrow. They sacrifice long-term freedom for short-term emotion. Here is your challenge. Look at your spending from last month. Not the whole year, not the last 6 months. Just 30 days. Ask yourself one question for every expense. Did I buy this because I needed it or because I wanted to feel better for a moment? If you answer honestly, you will see the truth. You will see patterns. You will see habits. And once you see them, you can change them, start catching yourself half the time. Not all the time, just half. You will notice your money behaving differently, quietly, slowly, but surely it starts to grow. It starts to stay. You begin building freedom. You begin gaining control. You stop letting money control you, and you start controlling it. Ladies and gentlemen, the first secret to getting rich is not about earning a fortune overnight. It is about keeping what you already have and using it wisely. It is about slowing down your expenses so your money has room to breathe. Because once you master this habit, you will be shocked by what happens next. The richer you become, the easier it becomes to make even more money. Because now your money works for you, not the other way around. You have learned the first secret. Live below your means. That secret protects your money. It keeps money from slipping through your hands. It builds the foundation. But protection alone is not enough. Saving alone is not enough. You need a way to grow your income. You need a way to increase your value. This brings us to the second secret. A secret that can multiply your income faster than almost anything else. Secret 2. Master one high-value skill, ladies and gentlemen. Most people believe money comes from working harder. They believe money comes from long hours. They believe money comes from showing up and hoping for a raise. This is why so many people stay average. They rely on the same skill for decades. They never grow beyond the job they started with. They work hard, but they do not become more valuable. Rich people play a different game. They do not rely on effort alone. They rely on skill. They rely on value. They rely on expertise. They focus on becoming so good at one thing that people pay them more than they pay everyone else. Most people work for money. Rich people make their skills work for them. Let me tell you a story, a real one. A guy I knew worked a normal 9-to-5 job. He was smart, he was consistent, but his income was limited by his salary. He could not grow beyond what he was paid. His effort had a ceiling. His income had a ceiling. His time had a ceiling. One day he decided to learn digital marketing. At first it was confusing. At first he made mistakes. At first nothing worked. But he stayed consistent. He learned for 1 hour each evening. He practiced. He watched tutorials. He tested ideas. He studied small businesses and how they marketed themselves. After a few months, he got his first client. A tiny local shop. They paid him $300 for a simple project. Just one project. Then he got another. Then 5. Then more. Within a year, he was earning double his old salary from side work alone. He did not get a raise. He did not work more hours at his job. He simply built a skill that people value. 3 years later, he quit his job completely. He had multiple clients. His income was no longer limited by a fixed salary. He had control. He had freedom. All because he invested time into mastering one high-value skill. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how skill creates leverage. Leverage creates opportunity. Opportunity creates money. And this is not just ordinary people. Even the most famous names on the planet follow this principle. Elon Musk taught himself programming. He learned physics. He learned engineering. He built skills before he built companies. These skills gave him the power to solve big problems. Oprah Winfrey built communication skills. She learned how to speak with impact. She mastered storytelling. She built interviewing skills. Those skills turned her into one of the most influential people in media. Jeff Bezos learned coding and computer systems when he was young. He understood technology. He understood automation. He used that knowledge to build Amazon from a garage into one of the biggest companies in the world. Skills created their success long before money arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not need to be a genius to learn a high-value skill. You do not need to start with talent. You do not need to start perfect. You only need to start. Let me give you another example that may feel close to home. A friend of mine learned video editing. Just one skill. Nothing complicated, nothing fancy. He started by doing free work. He edited videos for friends. He edited videos for small pages online. He edited simple content for people who needed help. At first, he charged $50 per video. Then he charged $100, then $300, then $500. Within 2 years, his skill was earning him more than most full-time employees, all from one skill, one focused effort, one decision to become valuable. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the truth. One high-value skill can change everything. It can change your income. It can change your confidence. It can change your opportunities. It can change your future. The world pays for value. The world always pays for value. When you become more valuable, your income rises automatically. You do not need to beg for raises. You do not need to wait for promotions. You do not need to depend on luck. You take control. You create your own doors. Most people resist learning new skills. They say they are too tired. They say they do not have time. They say they will start later. But later becomes never, and never becomes regret. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can dedicate 1 hour a day to learning a high-value skill, your life will look different in 2 years. Your income will rise. Your confidence will rise. And your opportunities will multiply. Let us make this practical. Ask yourself one question. What is one skill that people will pay you for? It could be writing, sales, coding, editing, marketing, communication, public speaking, graphic design, social media management, AI tools, photography, web design, sound editing, data analysis, copywriting, or something you already enjoy. You do not need 10 skills. You need one strong skill. One skill that people need. One skill you can become excellent at. Pick one. Commit to it. Learn it daily. Practice it daily. Improve weekly. Keep going even when you feel slow. Keep going even when you make mistakes. Keep going even when results are invisible, because results take time, skill takes time, growth. You now understand two major secrets. Live below your means, master one high-value skill. These two secrets control your spending and increase your value. But once you have a skill, once you have income, there is another rule that separates the wealthy from the rest. Secret 3. Do not rely on one source of income. Build multiple income streams. Ladies and gentlemen, most people believe that one job is enough. They believe that one paycheck will take care of their future. They wake up, go to work, come home, collect their salary, and hope that life stays stable. But hope is not a plan. And depending on one source of income is one of the riskiest financial positions anyone can be in. Imagine putting all your eggs in one basket. Now imagine that basket sitting at the top of a windy rooftop. One mistake, one crisis, one company shutdown, one accident, one economic shift, and the entire basket falls. Everything disappears at once. That is the danger of depending on one income stream. Rich people understand something different. They know that one income is survival, but multiple incomes are stability. Multiple incomes are confidence. Multiple incomes are freedom. Let me tell you a real story. A friend of mine named Liam worked as a graphic designer at a small firm. His salary was fine, his job was stable, but he felt trapped. He wanted more income. He wanted more time. He wanted more control over his future. Instead of asking for a raise, he built extra streams of income. He started small. First, he sold custom illustrations online, simple designs, low prices. Then he created an online course. He taught beginners how to design logos. People bought the course. Then he began offering freelance design work to small businesses in his city. He took weekend jobs. He took evening projects. 3 years later, he had 4 different income streams. His main job, his freelance work, his online sales, his course. Even if one slowed down, the others kept flowing. Even if one had a bad month, the other 3 supported him. Eventually, he earned more from his side streams than from his full-time job. That is the power of multiple incomes. You never depend on one stream again. You never feel trapped. You never feel one decision away from financial stress. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a completely different example. A woman I know started baking cakes from her home. She did not have a huge kitchen. She did not have expensive tools. She had skill. And she had consistency. At first, she sold cakes to neighbors. Then she opened an Instagram page. Orders grew. People started sharing her work. A local cafe discovered her and gave her a small catering contract. She delivered cakes every week. Then she started teaching weekend baking classes. 1 class every Sunday, a few students, a small fee, but it grew. In a short time, she had 3 different streams of income. Online orders, cafe deliveries, weekend classes. She earned more than she ever earned in her old 9-to-5 job, all from one skill. Used in 3 ways. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the secret most people ignore. One skill can create multiple incomes. One talent can be monetized many times. One idea can create different cash flow channels. Let me break this down even more clearly. The wealthy do not depend on one stream. They build income like layers, one layer on top of another. Even if one layer shakes, the whole structure stays strong. Think about this. A writer can earn from freelance work, a blog, a YouTube channel, book sales, courses. A tutor can offer private lessons, online classes, study guides, digital products. A designer can offer client work, templates, digital downloads, courses, commissions. Every skill can be multiplied. Every talent can be expanded. Every hobby can be monetized. But most people never explore beyond their main income. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a truth many people do not want to hear. Your job may be stable today. It may feel secure today. But jobs change. Companies change. Industries change. Technology changes. And when that change arrives, it does not ask for permission. This is why rich people build multiple income streams. Not because they are greedy. Not because they want more money. Because they want more safety, more choices, more breathing room. If one income stops, they do not panic. They do not break. They do not lose everything. The other streams protect them. The other streams carry them. The other streams keep life stable. Ladies and gentlemen, here is another reason multiple incomes matter. It changes how you think. When you have more than one income stream, you stop feeling trapped. You stop feeling dependent. You stop feeling like you must obey every instruction at your job. You gain confidence because your survival does not depend on one source. You begin to think differently. You begin to act differently. You begin to take strategic risks. You begin to explore new opportunities. You begin to grow faster. Now let me make this practical for your life. Start with something small. Ask yourself a simple question. What is one more way I can earn money with the skill I already have? If you write well, offer freelance writing. If you speak well, offer coaching. If you design well, sell templates. If you bake, offer classes. If you know fitness, create plans. If you know digital tools, teach them. If you know how to fix something, offer services. You do not need a perfect idea. You do not need a perfect plan. You do not need a perfect setup. You only need one decision, one step. Ladies and gentlemen, you now understand 3 powerful secrets. Live below your means, master a high-value skill, build multiple income streams. These 3 secrets protect your money and grow your money. But now you need the secret that multiplies your money, the secret that makes wealth grow while you sleep, the secret that quietly turns small amounts into big results. Secret 4, invest your money wisely. Ladies and gentlemen, most people think saving is enough. They think putting money in a bank account is good financial behavior. They think a slowly rising balance is progress. But saving alone will never make you rich. Saving alone cannot beat inflation. Saving alone cannot create freedom, because inflation is silent. Inflation is steady. Inflation eats money slowly. Every year, your saved money buys less. Your savings lose power. The world becomes more expensive. The bank pays tiny interest. You lose more than you gain. Wealth does not come from saving. Wealth comes from investing. Let me tell you a story. A friend of mine named Sarah used to save every penny. She avoided spending. She lived carefully. But her savings sat in a basic account earning almost nothing. For years, she felt stuck. She saved money but never felt progress. She worked hard but her balance stayed small. Then she learned about investing. She learned about stocks. She learned about mutual funds. She learned about real estate. She learned about how money grows when money is put to work. She started small. She bought a few shares each month. Just a small amount, nothing crazy, nothing risky. She stayed consistent. She invested monthly. Her money began to grow. Her money started creating more money. Her savings turned into investments. Her investments turned into profit. Her profit turned into confidence. 5 years later, the amount she invested grew more than her yearly salary. And she did not work extra hours. She did not change jobs. She simply made her money work for her. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the power of investing. Money that grows while you sleep. Money that grows quietly. Money that multiplies over time. Let me give you another real example. A local cafe owner earned extra cash from his business. Instead of letting it sit in the bank, he bought a small rental property, a simple 1-bedroom unit. Nothing expensive. But every month the rent arrived, a steady flow of money. No extra work, no extra hours, no extra stress. His cafe earned income. His rental property earned income. And as years passed, the value of the property increased. His wealth grew from 2 directions, active income and passive income. This is how rich people think. They do not leave money sitting. They do not wait for inflation to destroy value. They turn money into assets. They turn assets into cash flow. They let time grow their wealth. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a simple truth. Even small investments matter. You do not need thousands to start. You only need consistency. Imagine investing $50 a week at 10% yearly return. That $50 grows into a large amount over the years. Not because you invested huge amounts, but because you invested consistently, because you let time do the work, because you let compound interest build wealth. Compound interest is simple. Your money makes money. Then that money makes more money. Then that money produces even more. And with enough time, the growth becomes massive. But here is the problem. Most people do not invest. Not because they cannot. Not because they do not have money, but because they fear what they do not understand. They fear loss. They fear mistakes. They fear the unknown. Ladies and gentlemen, knowledge removes fear. Learning removes fear. Start small. Start simple. Start safe. But invest in things you understand. Stocks, index funds, mutual funds, real estate, bonds, digital products, side businesses, skill-based assets. There are many ways to invest. You do not need all of them. You only need one to begin. Let me break it down even more clearly. There are 2 types of income. Active income and passive income. Active income requires work. You trade time for money. This is your job. This is your freelance work. This is your service. You must show up to earn. Passive income is different. Passive income pays you even when you do not show up, even when you rest, even when you sleep. This comes from investments, rental properties, dividends, royalties, automated businesses, digital products, interests. Passive income is what makes people rich. Passive income is what creates freedom. Passive income is what gives you time back. You now understand 4 powerful secrets. Live below your means. Master a high income skill. Build multiple income streams. Invest your money wisely. These secrets shape your habits. They shape your financial behavior. They shape your progress. But now we come to a secret that shapes something much deeper. Your mindset, your environment, your energy, your mentality. Because money is not only about numbers, it is also about influence. Secret 5, surround yourself with the right people, ladies and gentlemen. Here is a truth most people overlook. The people around you shape your success more than almost anything else. They shape your thoughts. They shape your confidence. They shape your decisions. They shape your habits. They shape what you believe is possible. You rise with people who lift you. You sink with people who drag you. You become like the people you spend time with. If you spend time with people who complain, you start complaining. If you spend time with people who fear risk, you start fearing risk. If you spend time with people who make excuses, you start making excuses. If you spend time with people who waste time, you start wasting time. But if you spend time with people who grow, you grow. If you spend time with people who learn, you learn. If you spend time with people who build, you build. If you spend time with people who take action, you take action. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a clear example. Imagine 2 software developers in the same city. Same skill level, same experience, same education, but very different environments. Developer A spends evenings with colleagues who complain about the boss. They gossip. They blame the company. They scroll on their phones. They waste time. They talk about problems, but never solutions. They say life is unfair. They wait for luck. Developer B attends a coding meetup twice a month. He joins a small online group where developers share freelance opportunities. He talks to people who build projects, people who stay curious, people who improve their skills, people who try new things. 1 year later, developer B has 3 freelance clients. He learned a new framework. He improved his portfolio. He got invited to a remote project that pays more than his salary. Meanwhile, developer A is still waiting for a promotion, same talent, different people, different outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, your environment is powerful. Too powerful to ignore. Let me take this deeper. Even the wealthiest and smartest people in the world rely on the right relationships. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are lifelong friends. They challenge each other. They inspire each other. They share ideas. They learn from each other. Gates once said Buffett taught him lessons that no book could provide. Their friendship shaped their thinking. Their thinking shaped their wealth. Or consider Oprah Winfrey. She has often credited her mentors, her advisors, her professional circle. They pushed her, they guided her, they corrected her, they expanded her vision. She did not rise alone. She built her environment wisely. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot rise in a negative environment. You cannot grow around people who refuse to grow. You cannot be motivated around people who live without goals. You cannot stay disciplined around people who waste time. You cannot stay ambitious around people who expect nothing from life. Growth requires the right community, even if it is small. Even if it is online, even if it is one person, even if it is someone you learn from at a distance. Let me give you a simple example. A barista meets a coworker who invests in real estate. They talk. The coworker shares advice. The barista starts learning. The barista starts saving. The barista makes better decisions. Within a few years, that barista buys a small property, then another. Their life changes because of one person. Contrast this with someone who spends time with a group that constantly complains about money. They say things like money is evil, or nobody gets rich legally, or the economy is against us, or rich people are lucky. These beliefs kill ambition. These beliefs kill growth. These beliefs keep people broke. Ladies and gentlemen, your circle is your mirror. If you want to predict your future, look at your 5 closest friends. Study them. Observe them. Who are they? How do they think? How do they speak? What do they expect from life? What habits do they have? What do they value? If the answer scares you, it is time to make changes. But here is something important. You do not need to cut everyone off. You do not need to remove all negative people from your life. You only need to rebalance. Spend more time with people who lift you. Spend less time with people who drain you. Increase the influence of the right people and reduce the influence of the wrong ones. Even small adjustments change your life. Let me give you a practical exercise. Write down the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Write down how they affect your mindset. Write down how they speak about goals. Write down their attitude toward money. Write down their attitude toward success. Then ask one question. Do they push me forward or do they pull me backward? Ladies and gentlemen, surrounding yourself with the right people does not only create inspiration, it creates accountability. When you say your goals out loud to people who care about growth, they hold you to a higher standard, they notice when you are not trying, they confront you when you slack, they encourage you when you fail, they celebrate when you win. These relationships are priceless. These relationships create discipline. These relationships create progress. Let me give you another example. A young entrepreneur joined an online community of small business owners. He shared his ideas. He asked for feedback. He received advice. He learned shortcuts. He avoided mistakes. He got motivation. He saw the progress of others and felt the urge to catch up. Within 2 years, his business tripled. Not because he was better than others, but because he had the right circle. Ladies and gentlemen, wealth flows through networks. Opportunities flow through people. Confidence flows through conversations. Ideas flow through relationships. You may have the best ideas. You may have the best skills. You may have money to invest. But if you surround yourself with people who pull you down, your growth slows. But if you surround yourself with people who inspire you, your growth accelerates. Let me take this even further. The right people do not only push you,